come up to the podium, and I want you to give a little treat. You don't have to go 3 minutes, but I'm going to have a timer that goes off after 3 minutes. So if you just quickly introduce yourself, tell us, what your qualifications are, and short, just tell us why we should vote for you for that position. And after you're done, we'll have time for just a few questions, 1 or 2 questions after that candidate speaks. Then we're going to move on to the next group until we complete all the groups. And when we get to the end of the evening, then the floor will be open to questions to any candidate. Okay, is everybody okay with that? I am. Okay, so are we ready to go? Without any further ado, we have a school board member from Canaan here, and her first name is Kimberly.
Perfect.
DePelto. Tracy. And she's been serving on the school board for
1 year.
1 year, and you're on the ballot again.
Yes.
Okay, so are you ready?
I am Kimberly Tracy, and I live in Canaan, and I am running for the position of school board. I was appointed last year. It was a pretty contentious position. I caught a lot of heat for opposing the renovation. So if anybody has any questions, I definitely want to answer why I oppose the renovation. Not because I'm against education. I actually am very well educated. I went to private school, boarding school, and on to college for civil engineering. I've been in construction, engineering, and surveying since 1987. I moved to Dorchester in '01. Bought a house, but due to a divorce, moved into the big city of Canaan so that it was easier for my children for sports, and the bus could pick them up at the end of the driveway. I have my daughter's in her 12th year in the school district as a student, and my son is in his 11th. So combined, I have 23 years involved in the school. When I lived in Dorchester, I was on the budget committee for the school district. I was a member of the Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning Committee, and at one point, I was the president of the CES-PTA. I've been involved in a lot of fundraising activities and involved in a lot of school activities. I want to continue on this path. It was a tough year. I dug in deep. I'm the chairman of the education committee. I am on the communications committee, and I started the CIP committee, which is the capital improvement plan committee, which was one of the reasons why I opposed the renovation, because there wasn't one in place, nor was there a long-term strategic plan for the school district. With the declining population of the students that started in '93, that has continued to this day for a whole bunch of reasons. If you have any questions, I thought the renovation was excessive. It wasn't green enough, and I would have liked it to have gone up a story and not out. I played an important role this year when we did the budgets. I picked a lot of numbers off that budget. They tried to put the bond fees that are going to take place this year for bonds B and C, which totaled over $71,000. I found that buried in the budget. We got it taken out, but it was a long, hard fight to get it taken out. I felt it was part of the renovation, not a part of our yearly budget. And it was a big learning curve this year. So I feel that I'm very well qualified to continue in that position with what I learned this year. So I would like you to vote for me on March 10th. Questions after?
Very good. Anybody have a question right now?
Hi.
Virginia.
Now, I came in a little late. What is the protocol? I missed
The
that.
protocol is people are going to take turns coming up. There's time for a question or two after each speaker, and then there'll be an open session after everybody's spoken.
Is there a microphone that you know about?
There's no microphone that I know of.
All right.
So
Well,
you have to speak up.
I'm going to have to speak up. And since I have a very soft voice, that means I'm going to have to stand out and face the crowd. You say that, what's your name?
Kimberly DePelto Tracy.
Kimberly will be easier to remember.
Okay.
Now, Kimberly, you say that you were highly educated. What was that? You said you were highly educated?
I was accused of being completely against education because I voted not for the renovation, so I said, indeed, I am very well educated.
Very well
Thank you.
educated. Do you know what that word means?
I have my own interpretation of what that word would be.
Let me help you out.
Okay.
It comes from the Latin, okay, out of, educate, lead out. Same root from which we get awkward duct, conduct, etc. It doesn't mean necessarily acquiring knowledge. It means learning and leading yourself out of ignorance. I stand corrected. Acquiring knowledge, okay? Leading yourself out. And you know what the word etymology means?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I thought we were having questions at the
Well, I thought I'd allow a couple of questions after each speaker, but Rich, you have to cut it to a question.
This is a
If you
fun
could.
one. It comes from the Greek etymon, which means true meaning. So if what you were saying is true, that you were highly educated, and I assume that means educable, then you got my vote, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
One quick question. Anybody who's lived in this area for a long time, we've always heard that in the past that the high school could be built up. And then a number of years ago, we heard when they were discussing a renovation or rebuilding, that it couldn't be built up. Now, you're saying it could be.
Absolutely, because
So which is true?
the CMU walls that exist right now could not support a second floor because they're not reinforced. So a CMU wall is hollow, and if it's grouted, then to support the next floor, you put in rebar, and then you put in bond beams. That's not the case when they built this, but there is absolutely no reason why we couldn't have gone to the base of the foundation and put in new spread footings and put supports in that would have supported, say, steel columns that we could have gone across the top and built up. That would have been my preference.
So would that have meant new outside walls or interior walls?
It would have meant that we would have had to go just outside of the existing outside wall, and then we could have put a false wall there. That was my suggestion.
I
But
just wanted to see which one was, you know, the true story from the past. Thank you.
that's my personal opinion. I've been in construction, big construction, subways under DC, Raven Stadium, Baltimore Raven Stadium, Washington DC Redskin Stadium, that caliber. Now I've been in town. I was the engineer for the hypertherm project that you can see from '89, the life sciences building that's at the intersection of 10 and 120 in Hanover, Tuck, Living and Learning Complex, Thayer, Cummings Hall, and a couple more, the hotel on Route 120, but I won't take credit for that beauty.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to introduce the next candidate for the school board, and that's the candidate from Orange, I believe. And the person's name is Kathleen Stacy, and here she is right here. She's going to speak for about 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to all of you tonight. I was appointed to fill the vacancy created by Charlie Solo when he left. I've only been on the board for a short while, and I've learned a lot, and that's the whole point and why I'm there. I want to learn something. I want to give something. I've been in this district for over 27 years. I had 2 children that went to the Mascoma schools, and I know a little bit about how things work around here. I've been involved with the Boy Scouts of America for over 30 years. I was part of the group that started Troop 800 here in Grafton. We had one son that reached his Eagle Border Review here at the Grafton Church. He was Joe Stacy from Troop 800. And our other son had his Eagle Board Review through the Canaan Troop 319. So, in addition to my volunteer work, I've also been a volunteer with the APD Auxiliary, and I've worked with the St. Helena and St. Mary Church as a Sunday school teacher. I've also received an outstanding recognition from the Catholic Diocese, and I'm a recipient of the St. George emblem. You have to forgive me tonight. I'm just coming off from a bout with the flu, and I have a little shortness of breath and an ear infection, so if I don't hear you the first time, that's what happens when you're out too many nights a week, going to school meetings and things like that. So I currently work for the federal government. I work at the Vet Center, and that is a readjustment counseling office. It's a new career change for me. I just started working there in June. And previous to that, I've worked several years in healthcare. When I first moved to this part of the Upper Valley, I worked for the Mascoma VNA and worked a lot of well-child clinics in Canaan. Probably knew quite a few youngsters that I don't recognize today when I see them as adults in the area. And it's always a shock when some nice young man comes up to me with his family and says, "Hello, Mrs. Stacy. Do you remember me from Cub Scouts?" I was the Sunapee District Roundtable Commissioner for over 9 years and trained a lot of adult leaders to be Cub Scout leaders and have a lot of fun working with the kids. And I also served as the PAC 319 Cub Scout chairman for almost 11 years in Canaan. I have a lot of volunteer friends, and I still stay in touch with them all. And I'm connected to the community. I've lived in New Hampshire all my life. My husband says I can't claim that I'm a New Hampshire resident, a native, because I was actually born in Vermont, and he holds it against me. And lets everybody know that I'm not a true native. And my comeback to him is that I was born in the same hospital as Carlton Fisk. And my claim to fame is that when I was a kid in high school, I worked at Fletcher's in Bells Falls. I was one of the Fletcher girls, and I was Ted Williams' paper girl on Sunday morning. And I was so shy back then that I wouldn't dare ask Ted Williams for an autograph. All I could do was say thank you when he paid me for his Boston papers when he was coming in the store. I enjoy working with the school board. It's not always easy, and it takes a lot of patience to get through some of the evenings. And I do have a temper. They haven't seen it yet. But I can tell you right now that the biggest asset I have found on the school board is Kimberly. And she's on top of everything, and I'm glad that I'm there to help support her, and she really helps me learn a lot. And I'm there for you people. I want people to give me your concerns. I want to advocate for you. I'm not there on a personal agenda. If I had a personal agenda, I would be out in the audience, and I would be speaking from that point. It's very difficult to sit there and see some of the things happen without discussion and then have everything shot down when you ask a question. And I really encourage you, I know you all have very busy schedules, but at least try to attend some of our school board meetings. It's a lot of money, it's your school board, it's your school district, and I really hope to see you there at some of the meetings, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
We'll hold the questions for now. We're going to go, did anybody have a question for? We're going to go through some of the races that are uncontested right now, starting with, I don't think Joe Brown is here, and he is running for trustee of the trust funds. Cemetery trustee Michelle Norris is running for cemetery trustee. I don't believe she is here. And Pamela Curran is running for budget committee, and I don't believe she is here. But I have good news. Jim Griffin is running for a library, and he is here. So,
Well, thanks for everybody coming tonight. I've been a library trustee for 7 years now. The next couple of years, I think everybody's aware, are pretty critical for the library, important stuff going on. And as much as I was hoping to, I felt like I had to stick it out and see these projects through with the library. And I hope I came tonight, even though I was unopposed, just to answer any questions, or give everybody the opportunity to answer any questions anybody has about the library and what's going on there. And I hope for your support in the election. Was there any questions?
You're sure.
Great
Think
job.
about it.
Great job.
Thank you.
thank you, Jim.
Steve,
Okay, moving right along.
I have a question for you. The two school board people, were they running against each other, or those two different slots?
There are two different slots. One is the school board member from Canaan, and the other is the school board member from Orange.
Okay, thanks.
And even though they're from specific towns, the whole district gets the vote, so they'll be on the ballot here in Grafton. We're still going to move on to the treasurer's race, and we have two candidates, Peg Emsley and Dottie Campbell, and I believe that Dottie picked, she picked the low number, so she's up first. So Dottie Campbell, please.
And here I am again asking you to vote for me for a position. I say that because I've been a member when it was a voting membership for the Recreation Committee, trustee of the trust fund, auditor, selectman, moderator,
Library
library trustee, right. So here I am. I spent a year as the treasurer, and I just love the job. What do I bring to the treasurer? Bring as the treasurer of the town of Grafton? First of all, I'm highly organized. My past history is in education, and I've been the principal of 3 schools, Indian River School being one of them. And if you're not organized, you cannot manage a budget in a school building. You can't even manage the school. But however, I consider myself highly organized. I communicate well with the people with whom I work, because even if I don't agree with them, I like that person to believe that I'm listening to them, which I am doing. And then if I don't agree, I say, well, I'll give it some thought. I don't like to turn people away and say, I'm not interested in what you're going to say. So I bring that, I bring integrity, and I bring accuracy, and again, a love for the job. I really enjoy doing this job. What is the job? It's the management of the cash flow of the town. I manage the disbursements, and I manage the receipts. There's a certain amount of control, but I think people think that you control the budget. I don't control the budget. I control the payment of the budget. And if somebody in a department wants to purchase something and has the 2 signatures of a selectman on that purchase order or timesheet, it's not my job to question that. It's my job to sign the check because the selectmen have approved it. Sometimes somebody will come to me and ask about how much money is in an account because they want to spend something, and I can certainly give them that amount of money. But I cannot say to them, you can't spend the money on that particular item. So that's the job of the selectmen, and again, it means working with other people. And the selectmen have been very cooperative about making sure that there are 2 signatures on every disbursement sheet each week. And if there isn't two signatures, we usually call one of the selectmen and they come right away. So no checks have been issued that have not had 2 selectmen signatures on these sheets to print the check. So I bring that, and working with the other departments, as I already said, I need to be accountable for the cash flow. There's no question about it. And the accountability comes every month when I balance all of the accounts, but especially the general fund with the bank and with the administrative assistant. And we balanced every month last year, and we actually balanced at the end of the year right to the penny. And that was something I was really concerned about because I hadn't done that before. But we had great joy. You probably could hear us outside when we actually came up with the same numbers. So that was an accomplishment. There's no question about it. And you know that your money is accounted for. There's no question about that either. And again, maintaining the accounts. I am responsible for the revolving accounts. And so each month, besides doing a deposit report each week for the selectmen, for the general fund, for the tax collector, for the town clerk, because the money goes into the general fund. I keep an account of the revolving accounts because they like to have a check register, and they are happy with that. And then if they come and ask any other questions about their accounts, solid waste, recreation, and ambulance, then it's easy enough to give them that information. We expect the auditors in the spring, and I am confident that the auditors will find our house, our financial house in order. So again, I would appreciate your vote, and I will work well with you and with the departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dottie. The next candidate for treasurer is Peg Emsler.
Hello. I'm Peg Emsley, and I'm running for treasurer again. Dottie is your current treasurer, but I am a former treasurer. In January of 2013, when we lost June Burrington, our treasurer of 42 years, the selectmen appointed me as treasurer. And then it is a one-year term, so then about 2 months later, I ran for the position and I was elected. So I served for about 14 months as your treasurer, and without a mentor or someone to guide June was gone, it was, I had to really kind of jump in and take it on and learn the job quickly, which I believe I did. And in the beginning, I found that that there were some pretty big decisions that needed to be made about the organization of our municipal funds, and I was able to study up on that. I actually took classes and I consulted with other people like Local Government Center and DRA to try to find out what are the best answer for most of these situations. I kept the selectmen informed of what I was doing, and I think things ended up working out really, really well that year, in that I think because of some of those actions, I can't take all the credit for it because everybody works as a team with the financial administration, but I think because of some of those decisions, we were able to not borrow any money in anticipation of taxes that year. And I just got my town report yesterday, but reading there, it appears that was also the case this past year, which it's good to know that things are in shape so that we can, I think that that's a good reflection on the whole financial administration of the town. I have to tell you that really last year when I was up for re-election and Dottie Campbell ran against me and I lost, not by a big margin, but I lost, I have to tell you, it really did sting. I had really put so much work into it, and I thought I had done a really good job, and it kind of continued to sting this year because I still have not really figured out why you all, the voters, thought that a replacement was in order. But as Dottie said, she enjoyed the job. I really liked the job also. And because it was you know, a small margin in the voting, because I still would like to have the job. And even though Dottie is currently your treasurer, I still have a little more experience at it than she does. And actually, I think maybe, in my opinion, a better quality of experience, because I really had to reorganize things. And so I would ask you on voting day to please reinstate me as your town treasurer.
And we're going to basically hold the questions till we get to the end of the entire period today. And for any candidates speaking, what I'm trying to do as a timer is I'm walking to the back of the room. When I walk back up front, it means it's getting near the end. So we're going to move on with the meeting. Next is the planning board, and I do not believe there are any planning board candidates here. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the candidates are, for planning board, there's two slots open, so vote for any two. And they are Frank Neufeld, Jay Boucher, Rosalie Babiars, and Maureen O'Reilly. So we'll move on to our next race, and I happen to know that we do have some folks in the next race. There's the selectmen's race. It is hotly contested this year. There are 5 candidates for selectmen, and we're fortunate tonight that 4 of them are actually here to speak. And the 5th, who's Ed Grinley, was unable to come, and he had one of his people drop off a message. He had Jenny drop off a message. So I'm going to read that first, and then we're going to go in the order. So, are you ready? Here we go. My name is Ed Grinley, and I'm running for selectman. It has come to my attention there is concern or interest in my dismissal by the town of Grafton when employed by the Grafton transfer station. This incident is of no concern to anyone except myself and the Board of Selectmen who were in the office at that time. The other concern brought to my attention was the arrest of my wife, Pam, when she was employed by the town of Grafton main office. Charges were dropped due to falsification. We would like to take the opportunity to inform all that both my wife and I have served over the years on the fire department, fire association, and at least the past 10 years on the recreation committee. And we are still involved in that committee. Both of us have served on many other town organizations over the course of many years. We are involved, provide positive interaction and service to our community. Be sure to take the time to investigate other past or present members serving any town departments. Would suggest our current Board of Selectmen concerning any and all misconduct within. Also, the Grafton Ambulance and the members who fell under misconduct due to training hours that were not met for certification. And that's the message that I have from Ed and been requested to read. The other candidates for selectmen are Cindy Cudlick, Brian Fellers, Nicholas Hamilton, and Merle Kenyon. And we drew numbers before the beginning of the meeting, and the first person up to speak is Brian Fellers.
Are you showing your favoritism already?
Hi, I'm Brian Fellers. My parents moved to Grafton in 1973. I lived in Grafton as an adult for almost 20 years. I've served on the planning board for over a decade. I run the planning board as a frugal controller of the board. I believe the planning board, when I first began, had somewhere around a $3,000 budget. Last year we spent $40. The year before we spent $0. You won't find a person that had to come before the board that experienced any trouble. They were treated courteously, their neighbors were listened to, and that's the planning board I've been a part of for 10 years. I believe that taxes, as we continue to rise in taxes, there can be cuts made, and I think I'm the person to do it because I'm willing to volunteer time and effort to do that. That's it.
Thank you, Brian. The next candidate that's going to come up to speak is Cindy Kudlik.
You said it right every other time.
Kudlik, I'm sorry. I was going to ask you, what's the correct way to say that?
Cudlick, think of a cow. When I get up there, it'll be easier.
Well, it's your turn.
My name is Cindy Cudlick, and I would appreciate you voting for me for selectman. We came to New Hampshire a little over 5 years ago after a long search for a place where we could have more land and lower taxes. Landing in Grafton wasn't intentional. We just happened to find a place here that had enough land that we could afford. My husband works in Laconia, and we just kind of drew a circle and went, okay, an hour drive, taxes are good here, that works, let's go look. And quite honestly, when we first got here, I was content to just hang out on our 40 acres of land with our dog, and usually the neighbor's dog too, and learn everything I needed to know about Grafton from Bill French and his dog-eared copy of Ken Cushing's book. Then Iberdrola came, and there was the open house about the wind turbines, and I became fully involved with the team that got together to keep the wind turbines out. I volunteered to go door to door to ask people to sign the petitions, and that's when I really started to feel like I belong here. I talked to so many people, so many different people, and enjoyed learning more about Grafton from so many different perspectives. I am so proud that we actually defeated that project, and I'm so proud to be a part of a town where we put so much passion into defending our hometown. Steve and I grew up in a Midwestern suburbia where most government business is done behind closed doors. If you're allowed to speak, that's about all you get to do, is speak. No one has to listen. You don't have to be considered. And I just love the way things go here. Town meeting, deliberative, even selectmen's meetings, just the structure that gives everyone an opportunity to participate and to be able to make a difference. It's just so refreshing to me. The transparency with which New Englanders hold their elected to, the transparency that our founding fathers wanted for us, it just makes me proud. I've learned so much in the time that I've been here, and I look forward to learning so much more as I do every day. I was asked by several people who were part of that team to keep the turbines out, to consider running for select board. Well, I asked them why. They said, well, Cindy, you're hardworking, you're diligent, you look at different sides of a project or of an idea, and you do your own research and make up your own mind. You're honest, you're straightforward, and honestly, I couldn't argue. That's true. I love this town, and I love the people who live here. I love its history, its natural beauty, and most of all, the truly individuals that call Grafton home. When I was 13, I got a paper out because I wanted a bike. I got a job in retail at 17 because I wanted a car. Working hard to earn the things that I want and need is just part of who I am. Right now, I'm fortunate enough to not have to work for a living because my husband's career is so successful. But I do volunteer for the Fire and Ambulance Auxiliary, and I'm a board member on 2 nonprofits. I've got time and energy to serve. I've got the passion and dedication to serve well. And I'm too honest and straightforward to not work hard, serve well, and do it with the integrity and accountability that the job requires. I support all the organizations in town and that are working to keep this a great place to live, and we've made donations to pretty much all of them. There are many diverse mindsets on the things that we need and things that we want to have here in town. In my lifetime of working in different jobs, such as purchasing expediter, computer help desk technician, to name just a few, together with raising 3 kids, I have a nearly endless well of experience to draw from in finding common ground to get results, whatever those results might need to be. I'd appreciate your vote on March 10th, And if you'd like a lawn sign to show your support, please let me know. They're coming down quick though, somebody keeps stealing them. I must be a threat to somebody. Thanks for coming out tonight, and I'm eager to get started working hard for you.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. The next candidate up is Merle Kenyon.
Don't be making fun of me. Oh, yeah,
I'm
sure.
making fun of Rick.
I really didn't have much of anything to say. I've been here for 40 years or so, but I'm still a flatlander, because that's where I came from. I don't have any magic bullet. I would just promise to do my best to work with the board and also with the town. We have some major long-term projects that we've been ignoring for years. We always seem to be putting out fires rather than working on trying to make things better before the fires start. Prime example is our town office. You go to the PD and there are 2 holes in the floor as you enter. We also don't have any place for the police department. I happen to know more about the police department because I served as chief for a while. They don't have a place that they could bring victims or anyone to sit down and have a conversation in a comfortable spot. We always seem, like I said, we always seem to be putting out fires, never really taking care of business. I can't promise any tax issues. Like I said, all I can promise is that I will do my best to work with the board, and hopefully maybe we can find some money somewhere else. I mean, there were grants. We did a lot with the fire department. I didn't do a lot. The fire department has done a lot. We did a lot with the police department over the years. That's all I can say. I hope that we can find some more to do some of the projects that really need to be done. I guess that's it. You didn't have to walk up front.
Thank you, Merle. The next candidate on the agenda is Nicholas Hamilton.
I'm well aware that probably not many people here have seen me or know who I am. My wife and I moved to Grafton about 3.5 years ago in 2011, so I'm well aware that that is, puts me in my Grafton infancy in most cases. The reason so just to give a little background on who I am and how I got here. I was actually born in Connecticut. I've lived in the Northeast most of my life. I joined the Coast Guard after college, and I was active duty Coast Guard for about 5 years. That sent me up to New Hampshire, so I lived in Portsmouth for about 2. Then down to Virginia. I worked in the Pentagon for a year as a consultant to the Air Force, and now I'm actually employed at Hypertherm right around the corner in Lebanon. Been there since 2011 when I moved to Grafton. I'm a production leader there, and so it's kind of a 30-second story on who I am, I guess, and how I got here. The reason I threw my name in the ring for the select board was really just because I was looking to get a little bit more involved in the town. I've got a vested interest. My wife and I have had 2 kids since we've been here. And so looking to see the town prosper and be sustained. But since right around the time that I actually put my name in that ring, I found out that my wife and I are having our 3rd kid, and I'm actually starting a new job still with Hypertherm, but a whole new set of challenges in about 3 weeks. So I understand it's a little bit too late to get the name off the ballot, but I informally consider myself withdrawn just because I don't think I have the bandwidth or focus to really put into it at this point in time. So that's it for me.
You could still volunteer.
Like I said, I'm looking to get a little bit more involved.
Fire department's looking for people.
Yeah. I'm definitely up for some of that kind of stuff, but that's my.
Thank you, Nicholas, and thank you for wanting to get involved in our community. community. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you coming here and saying what you did, because you didn't have to do that. So that, you know, that says a lot to me about you. We've gone through all the candidates. We're a little bit fast tonight. You know, one of these short meetings in Grafton, maybe we ought to call the Valley News. It's a good time for some questions, though. You know, we can open the floor up to questions to any candidate that has spoken up here. So with that, if you raise your hand, you can ask a question. Oh, come on. No? Yeah? Well, Deb, do you have a question?
Hold on, I got a list of them here.
We're not gonna make $13 this way.
Yeah, we're gonna never beat the deliberative session.
So, for me, some of these questions are just for all of the candidates this year. And one would just be, I'm curious as to what thoughts are about the town hall building. I know I just looked over the budget and saw that about $4,000 was spent on fuel over the last year. And I'm curious because it feels to me as though it's a building that's underused and yet it costs a lot of money, and I would like to hear what the different candidates
Okay.
think about that.
So town hall, to the selectmen candidates. Do you want to weigh in on this? You don't want to weigh in? I'll just leave you out.
Yeah, I'll save time.
Then we're going to go backwards. Merle, what do you think of the town hall building?
I think it's, as she said, $4,000 to heat it, and if you look at the foundation, it needs serious work. The door only works half the time. It's either stuck open or stuck closed. We either have to make a commitment to fixing it up, or we need to possibly move along. It is not the traditional town hall. It's two school buildings that were put together, I think, in the 60s. And up until then, they met at the Center Church until one of the residents made an issue out of the fact that the town owned that building and didn't use it. But considering the amount of work that it needs to be fixed and brought up so that it's safe and also will stand winters, I'm not sure whether maybe we need to step back from it. And we have this building, which is a godsend, but as I said earlier, we need to start looking long-term and figure out what we're going to do, because our town office building is getting inappropriate. There's not enough storage space, and the police department is squeezed right into almost nothing at this point. So I think we probably ought to look into maybe moving on from it. And I didn't realize it was $4,000 to heat it. That's even worse than I imagine.
Thank you, Merle. Cindy, would you like to chime in?
Not to be a copycat, but Merle makes all the sense in the world. And as one of 3 select board members, it'd be something, it's definitely something that we would need to discuss and come up with a solution to. And also put it to the voters. Whatever you all want, it's your town too.
Thank you. Brian?
I think it should be put back into the private sector. People take care of their property. It's not everywhere. If the taxpayers want to continue to throw money at the dilapidated building, I think that's, they need to be educated and have that building returned to the private sector where someone will renovate it and turn it into a productive facility.
Thank you. Another question? Sandy?
This is for each of the people running for office as well. Where do you see our town 5 years from now?
Where do you see the town 5 years from now? Cindy, why don't you go first this time?
This was always my least favorite question in a job interview. Let me look into my crystal ball. Well, I'd like to see the country store open. I see a new library building over there that's going to have meeting space. That's going to help with some of the things that we've got issues with in town now. And gosh. Otherwise, not a lot of change. Not a lot of change. Grafton's pretty great the way it is. I mean, there's issues, but we don't need to make major changes.
Brian?
I see the town much as it's been for a long time. I agree with Cindy. I'd love to have the country store open again. It would be nice to be able to go get gas and a cup of coffee and talk to your neighbor every morning on the way to work. But other than that, you know, I think it'll be much the same as it is today.
I have to agree. During the 70s and 80s, we had a little bit of a growth spurt, but being so far away, we have not come anywhere near Canaan and Enfield's rate of growth. We've been pretty stagnant for a long time. So I don't see anything major happening. It would be nice with the library to build this little town center with the fire station and the town office building and the library. I think that's kind of nice. And my only thing is to try and work on our office space and our town buildings to keep them up. But I don't see a huge growth in population, and I don't see huge growth in our tax base. I don't see any industry or anything like that coming in. We're just going to be, all of us homeowners are going to be caught, just paying bills.
Yes.
Kathleen.
Kathleen, you have a question?
I'd like everybody to remember Kit Kat. Well, I'm Kat and she's Kim. Kit Kim. I have a question for you. Do you think that the new renovation project at the high school is going to improve your property values? Do you think it's going to bring more people into your community?
No.
Do you think it's going to raise your standard of living?
No.
Just the opposite.
Okay.
The
Thank
school
you.
would do all of those things.
Absolutely.
Not the school.
Adam Franz. I just had a question for the selectmen candidates. I know there's a lot of talk in town about taxes one way or the other, and there was a little bit, everybody touched on it just a little bit, but I'd like to hear each candidate's thoughts, first of all, on whether they feel that the town portion of taxes are too high or not high enough to sustain reasonable services, and if they have any specific ideas on how to nudge the needle in the direction they feel it should go.
Okay, that's a good question. Brian, you're up.
I always want to reduce taxes. I think the free market spends money more wisely than the communal group that, lets leaders spend their money. I always look for ways to reduce taxes. I've done it on the planning board and with no loss of services. And I'm fairly confident I can work with people that want to reduce taxes without disrupting services.
Cindy?
Really? I, in some ways, agree with Brian. It'd always be nice to see our taxes go down, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't think they need to go up majorly. I think we can do a lot of, we can maintain needed services without raising taxes. And I think one thing that we really need to look at is revenues. We need to make sure we're actually keeping tabs on our revenues, and the monies that are supposed to be coming in to help offset those taxes are coming in.
I think Cindy's correct on the revenues, and on that. School taxes are a huge part of our tax bill. And there's probably more people here tonight than there are at the school meetings on a regular basis.
Not when I first got elected. It was a full house standing remotely in 4 cops.
I wasn't there. Prime example. But I don't know that, my experience with the town so far is that most budgets are stretched very, very thin. Most of our town officials work as close to the ground as they possibly can. I don't know that there's a whole lot of waste that we can rein in. Bobby does a phenomenal job with the highway department. He works many more hours than I think he's starting to get paid for them now, but he hasn't in the past. He keeps equipment running much longer than any other town I've ever seen. looks for ways to save money. He just got a straight truck to haul the trash with, which saves us money, so we don't have to pay for every load that goes out. And he's working on getting recyclables, to get more money for the recyclables than he's shopping around rather than being tied to a contract. And anyway, I don't know. My only hope would be that there's some kind of way of getting some help through grants or any kind of government projects that we might be able to fit into. We did with the PD, as I said earlier. We were lucky to get a lot of equipment from them in the past. I don't see any major cuts anywhere.
Thank you. Another question? Roger.
Well, speaking about running the town in a lean manner, the heating bill, which was just mentioned, is way, way out of bounds. And I wonder if selectmen running for position have any idea how to cut that down.
The heating cost in general across the board. Okay, Merle, you're first.
Well, the town hall sounds like a problem. I didn't realize it was that high. That's an issue. The town office building, like I said, there were a couple of holes in the floor of the PD. That would make a big difference in heating. We've come a long way when we used to have separate heaters for each section of the building. At least we have a central heating system, but I mean, just those little things would start to take care of it. And as Cindy said, bring up the town hall to the townspeople and see if they feel they want to keep maintaining it. And that would save us $4,000 at least in heating costs. And it would put it back on the tax rolls.
Brian?
Like I said, I signed a petition to sell the town hall, the old town hall 2 years ago. I've been leading the charge on that. It's an empty, dying, ancient relic to some people in town. It should be sold.
Cindy?
I think I'd have to look at what the heating costs are for each of the different buildings in town before I could say for sure what I thought would need to be done. But I think one thing is definitely some insulation, some weather types of things, tighten the buildings up would certainly help.
I would just like to make a statement about the town hall, if I could. It's nice to say sell the town hall, and I'm not totally against that either. But it is used. The library uses it once a month for their potlucks, for the Friends of the Library. It's used for library events. We had a pumpkin carving stuff there. The Ladies Benevolent Society meets there. The Historical Society has a supper there. I mean, where else do you go? Where else do these people meet? They don't want to come and have, John move out the equipment or necessarily, not everybody, for some reason, not everybody wants to go to the church or something. So where else do you go? We don't have anything else in town.
The new library.
The new library, but, if you want to get that money out, go. That's our hope. That's my idea.
Sean?
Speaking of the new library, I'd be interested to know what each of the candidates thinks about the potential of a new library and what that organization has been doing for this town, and just what's your overall view of the library and the potential of the new library.
Who wants to go first? It's Brian?
I think the library ought to be funded voluntarily. I think technology today, we could probably buy every child in Grafton a Nook, and they could get $100 worth of books a year on it. I understand some people's, thing that the library is a great meeting place. There are other great meeting places around. I mean, not you can fit people's houses. People have houses and have people over. I understand the social aspect of it. You could meet in Canaan Village Pizza if you need to go meet somebody, but I think it's a waste of money, in my opinion.
Merle?
I never knew what was going on in the library up until the last couple of years when we were working on the house next to it. And I was very much impressed with how much they did and how many people used the library. Also, very impressed with how dedicated all the people that have anything to do with the library are. I believe with a new building that they would even do better. And we have so few services in this town. Plus the fact that they're going to build right here, and hopefully we can start in the town center, I guess is what, and I brought that up before, but I think that's great. And I support the library, and I believe we will probably have to do some help with taxes to keep it going. But the people that are involved are just heavily involved, and it serves a lot more people than you would expect. Like I said, working next door to it, I was very much impressed with the amount of traffic going in and out.
Cindy?
I fully support the library, and although I don't spend as much time there as some people do, we've made donations to them. We support things that go on there. And I wouldn't want to live in a town without a library. I wouldn't. As a matter of fact, my husband bought me a Kindle several years ago, and I hate it. Because I want to go to the library, I want to smell the books, the Dewey Decimal System is brilliant. I'm excited to see what they're doing, what the Friends of the Library is doing to raise money to get that building moved, if it's possible, or to build something different. And I'm really excited that there's a potential there for some other meeting space and for other things in town to be able to use too. And kids without books I don't want to live in a place where kids without books. They need that. They need what of the things that go on there. And there's a lot of people in town who don't have internet access, and they use the library for that. And I support what's going on.
Just before you, Jen, Brian, did you want to chime in on something?
No, it's just two different views on taxation and private sector versus public sector. Back in the day, when laissez-faire capitalism ruled this country, businessmen would build libraries and fund them on their own volition. And obviously, we don't have laissez-faire capitalism anymore in this country. So the public sector has sucked the money into public works, basically, and we're almost reaching a tipping point.
Jen, did you have a question?
As a library trustee, I'd like to say, there are so many things we need to do at the library, and we have not been able to do them because we have no space. For example, there are lots of people in town who cannot read or write, and we're hoping to offer that service. We'd also like to have be able to offer homework out to the kids after school so that they could be more involved, especially in the STEM material. So that's why I think we should all support the library and the new library. Thank you.
Steve, the library is a social place. I go down there on Saturday mornings and I see all these people that I don't see during the week. And you look at the age group, they're from 3 years old to 80 years old. And there's always something going on. And right now it's a little community place, there's no question about it. Maybe. Yep.
Kimberly.
I know I'm from Canaan and I don't want to monopolize your meeting because it's Grafton, but I would be your rep, I was your rep on the school board. The biggest way you guys can help yourself in Grafton is to, as you can see, we're a tag team. She's my best ally. We're the only two people that actually consider anything on the school board. The others are bobbleheads, and I'm sorry to say, and I don't mean to be a negative campaigner, but the two of us deliberate everything. We weigh everything. We ask questions, we investigate. The two of us spend more time than anybody else on that board And the best thing that you can do to help Grafton is to support us and then find a really great Grafton rep, because you guys need a really great Grafton rep too.
Cindy?
I'm just curious, the two women that are running for school board, are you both running, do you have opposition? Do you have
No.
opposed?
She's orange, I'm Canaan.
Right, and there's nobody else.
No, oh no, we both are being opposed. She is,
There is another candidate
Yeah.
for Orange.
and another candidate for Canaan, as we are not running unopposed.
Gotcha, thank you. Thanks for coming down,
Yeah.
for sure.
I want to ask her some questions about the school.
Yes, go ahead.
You said that you voted against the renovation of the school,
I did.
and what happened after that?
I personally voted against it as an individual, but it was approved 62%.
Now, to me, does it make difference if the school is large or tall, as long as it's been renovated? Because I've been in that school, and it's bad for the kids. We spend money for the jail instead of then send money approving the school, and that's what gets me upset, because the kids don't have anything to do with the law. They're young, they learn, and they become good citizens. But we spend money, we decide to spend money for the jail that we really didn't need very much. I'm for any kind of school renovation. Doesn't make a difference if it's tall or large.
Can I respond?
Sure, please.
Okay, so the renovation is a big auditorium, but there won't be any additional programs. The old school that's still there is still going to be the old school. So we're building an addition. So I wasn't against renovating the school. I was against that particular plan because there wasn't a long-term strategic plan for the district. We've lost 25% of our students in the last 12, 15 years. In the last 13 years, our budget's gone from 15 million to 25 million, but we've lost 370 kids, the amount of children that are in the high school in that time frame. So the SAU building, it needs to be sold. That property needs to be sold. The people that work at the SAU need to be moved to the high school. There was no plan for that, and there still isn't. So we have 5 archaic properties right now that are costing us a lot of money. So we started a CIP this year, capital improvement plan, to start looking long-term at the big expenses, and now we need a long-term strategic plan for the district, because there's nothing to indicate that there's going to be an increase in students. Every statistic shows that our student population will be dropping throughout the 40s. So I wasn't against a renovation. I am pro-education. My daughter skipped a year. She's brilliant. She's in every honors AP advanced class. My son, who's sitting here supporting me, same way. Every opportunity in life, every place you are is a classroom. I don't depend upon the school to be my children's only place of education. They're educated everywhere. So I'm not against a renovation, I was against that renovation.
Somebody else does.
Yeah, you have an...
I'm from Canaan, I just would like to ask.
Well, we'll let you ask.
Okay, it's for the school, it's for all of you.
Okay.
I go to all the school board meetings, I record all the school board meetings, I'm a past school board member, okay? I've been there, done that, so I know what it's like. Do you people realize how many dollars are being spent just for roads and highways for that school, which will not educate one child one bit?
No.
Almost a third of it.
What do you mean?
The budget.
What is the redesigning Route 4?
Yeah, getting the permits, getting all the things. Now, why aren't we going to the legislature, because we didn't get any state funding for this, okay? We're doing this on our own. Why don't we go to our reps that basically in the state, okay, and ask them to lean on the state highway to waive the penalties and the services that are needed to design that highway change. We didn't, we're biting the bullet. How about the state kick in a little bit on it to help us out?
That's one of you state reps.
Representative Darrow. Funny you should ask that question. Write me a letter so I'll remember. I'll definitely bring it up when I'm in the court. I would appreciate that. If you want to stop, I'll give you my email and communicate with me.
Thank you.
Give me your ideas, and I'll do my best to go forward. You know, especially if we're in agreement, and it does make sense. I know the renovations is big bucks, and I know to move the road around, to redesign it, that's got to be a big chunk of it. Although I wasn't aware how much it is. So yeah, definitely communicate with
One
me.
other
Follow up.
site that you could look for is the Byrne Foundation is supporting many, many well-funded issues, okay? And I don't know much about it, but we get a lot for the school. We're also getting for Canaan for the new health center up there. It's a source to go and see. She's very, very supportive and very community organized, interested, okay? So the Byrne Foundation.
Jackman Doherty. Jackman Doherty. We were on it.
And I spent a couple of years also on the Mascoma School Board, so I know of some of these things that you speak of, and see there's a lot of truth to it. It's frustrating. So, Tom.
Yeah, the Kit Kats.
Thanks. That's it.
We might as well
Kim
keep
Cats.
this going because you mentioned, Grafton needs a good rep. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the school board is voted at large. If every voter came out in Grafton to vote for our rep, one other, except Orange, Canaan or Enfield's, voters who just happen to turn out can outvote us.
Right.
Am I correct on that?
I meant find a good rep.
Yeah, okay.
That's a,
We have no choice on the rep. Enfield will vote.
That won't happen again. There wouldn't be any more support at the next round.
But what I'm saying is we do not have our own rep. It's at large. If I'm correct.
Yes.
Right.
Sean.
I'd be interested to know what the candidate's position is on future planning for the town. By way of this, I mean the master plan. The purpose of that is really for future planning of the town. And I think what we've seen in the last 10, 15 years is non-planning, as far as we found ourselves in a situation with the town offices, with the Department of Labor and so on and so forth. What is your opinion of the master plan as a tool to achieve a better flow for the town and a better sense of community for the town and its organization?
So we'll ask the planning board candidates that?
Yeah.
They're not here. Oh, they're not here.
We'll ask the selectmen. Burl, can you go first on that?
I think I've somewhat addressed that. We need to look forward instead of putting out fires all the time, and we need to not ignore the Department of Labor when they come in and say, look, we got to do this and that, and we just kind of put it off until they finally come in and threaten us. We've used capital reserve funds in the past, I know there's not much money as far as interest goes on it, but the bike isn't quite as bad. We have one for a cruiser, and we've done it and for highway equipment and that kind of stuff, but I don't know if there's a whole lot more we can do. We now have the property in front of us. They've done a great job with the fire station. One of the sad things about the fire station at last town meeting, not last over, but the year before, was we had that money from the insurance company to replace the floor and do it correctly, and there was extra money, and people, rather than put it into the fire station or into fire service, they wanted to take it out. We couldn't come up with a reasonable plan. My opinion was that the money came from the fire department, the insurance money came to fix the fire department, and I think it should have been used for that and not to try and replace taxes or whatever else. I mean, we just had such a crazy... Anyway, I get off. I know we need planning. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to be able to handle that because I think we're so far behind now that it's going to take a long time to catch up.
Brian, can you chime in on that planning question?
I
I believe people with big egos come up with master plans. We've had a bunch of people in history that have master plans. Hitler had one for Germany. I believe money in the private sector, everyone works towards their own interests, and they help their neighbors, and they create good families and good communities because they aren't stressed out, rushing back and forth to work to pay their taxes.
Not to be cliche, but if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think we need a master plan. I don't know, has there ever been one?
Yes, 1986.
I look forward to sitting down with you, Sean and Leanne, and updating that.
You have to be on the planning board.
Yeah.
Yeah, the planning board updates the master.
But they won't
I
be responsible to make sure it gets done.
We have that master plan at the library. So anybody's welcome to come look at it. The last one that was done, we have it, and it is the planning board that has
What
it.
year was that?
1986, I think.
I guess, I don't really know, I can't remember, I haven't looked at it
It's
the last
in the
couple
80s.
days. But I would like to ask you a question in the school board, when you get a chance.
We'll go ahead.
All right, so we voted for well, I shouldn't say we. The communities voted for the renovation of the school. It passed. I believe that wasn't last year. Yeah, last year. So where are they now with that? I mean, when do they start working? What's the process and where are they? So neither of us are on the building committee, but I do attend those meetings, which are that surprising day. They will break ground. They will start to mobilize in April. And as soon as school lets out, they are planning a very fast track from the day school lets out to September 8th. They moved start date up. There are documents that we could show you that are phased. They have phases, relocating the entrance and the student parking and then the teacher parking. And, they start on the lower end near the school, near the entrance and the road. And they're working towards the renovation portion, which is on the west side. There's a ton of infrastructure, which is all your catch basins and the roads and the rerouting. The existing traffic of the bus will maintain for 1 year. After that, the bus goes this way. It's a very bizarre pattern, which is going to be very confusing, and we'll have to get used to it. But they plan to attack it with a vengeance this year. But some of the things that we're working on is all of a sudden there's a new field. It wasn't part of what was pitched to the public. With that new field comes $75,000 worth of infiltration trenches just for that one field. I'm happy that we have a field, but we also had a warrant article last year to raise and appropriate $75,000 from the cutting of the wood. No money has gone into that capital reserve plan. Those are the things that we're asking those questions. Where's the money? Why hasn't it come into the capital reserve fund? So we're not saying that the renovation is, we have to support the renovation at this point, but we're trying to keep tabs on it. There needs to be checks and balances because the school, given carte blanche, would spend money constantly. So we have to rein them in. And right now, you have 2 people that weigh every decision, and the other 5 just, if the superintendent says yes, then that's what they do. So the whole school board's not on the building committee. 3 people are on the building committee. Interesting.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Just a comment. One of the most valuable people you could have on the building committee and coming in late would be Kim. What is your title?
Project engineer, field engineer, project manager.
And they won't let her on the building committee.
I think I read about you in the Valley News. It's okay.
Tom, another question.
Yes, 2 things. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for this. Merle brought up about the money for the floor to fix this. Well, it looks like we have a lawsuit on that. Cindy just mentioned about getting together with the select board for the master plan. Well, as far as I know, the RSA's, that is a planning board's authority. The select board has nothing. Someone can correct me on that. But going forth, I see more lawsuits. So the question is, for the select persons, where do you see all these lawsuits going? Are we going to continue suing each other or working together? The only lawyers win in these. I know it went up. I don't have the details. The question is, future lawsuits. What are your views on those?
Cindy, you get to go first on future lawsuits.
I'm not even sure I know what you're asking, to be honest. If there's an RSA that says the select board cannot do a master plan,
The RSA said, I don't mean to interrupt, but the RSA says it's a planning board, it is a planning board function.
it is a planning board
Even though one
function.
select board is on the planning board, correct? Yes,
That's
official
correct,
member.
that's correct. There's an ex officio on the planning board, but the planning board actually comes up with the master plan.
I guess if it's something that needs to be done and it's not getting done by the department that's supposed to do it, the selectmen are responsible for things to get done in the town. I don't know why the planning board would sue the select board for doing work that needs to be done, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it if that happens. Were there other specific lawsuits you were asking about? I mean, I think we spend way too much in legal fees as it
Well,
is.
that's sure. If it was basically legal fees, then I don't. I see a future one coming, and there's an existing one now at this floor.
Well, if you get up and you walk outside and you get in your car and you talk to somebody, you're probably liable for a lawsuit. Somebody could sue you for anything, so it's part of life. Unfortunately, it's part of the life we live, the way we live now. But I do think that our legal fees, we spend way too much on a lawyer that isn't even very good. It's definitely something to address.
Brian?
I'm not sure what the question is.
I can rephrase that.
Yeah, we gotta finish off this question first, Roger, and then I'll get right back to you.
We got a question on the floor.
I could rephrase that. The question is, over the years, lawsuits keep going up. Do you foresee the trend continuing that way if you're elected?
I would hope not. The planning board had one minor lawsuit in my 10-year tenure with someone that did not have legal standing, so it was quickly dismissed. No property owners have sued the planning board. No neighbors of property owners have sued the planning board.
Merle?
I would just like some clarification. I mean, you're pointing two different fingers at potential lawsuit and lawsuit. I'd like maybe to have you clarify.
If I'm correct, there was some bids put in to fix this problem, and because of some legal situations, there's a lawsuit because of plans putting in to fix this floor.
Yeah.
And if I'm correct, it's still ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like it could have been worked out, make a deal, things like this, because going on and on, paying these lawyers, the expense over the years, Merle, has gone up. I don't have the numbers. And I'm just wondering, is it still going up? Are we going, everything goes to the lawyers, to the town government center? Your view on that?
Unfortunately, I think more's going to have to go to the attorneys because everybody's a lawyer. And if you don't have somebody to fall back on when you make a mistake, at least have somebody review some of the issues that happen. If you don't have them to fall back on, or at least their opinion, you're kind of in limbo. So I don't see it going down, unfortunately, and I see legal fees going up everywhere. I mean, everybody's got an issue, and there's almost always a lawyer out there that will take anything, no matter how bizarre the case is. I'd like to think it isn't going to go anywhere, but I just thought you were pointing at me when you were. I thought you had pointed at Cindy. So
I just saw two topics that was one's existing and I could see a future one.
So just
I see it going up. I don't see us having any relief as far as an attorney goes.
Thank you.
Just as far as lawsuits, we do have a couple of lawsuits right now that weren't mentioned, and they're from the utility companies. We're being sued as as well as, you know, like 40-some other towns in the state regarding assessing the right-of-way that the telephone poles are on. And we have no choice but to go and, you know, get a lawyer for that. I just wanted to mention that. Well, Roger's actually in front of me, had his hand up earlier. Did you have a question, Roger?
Yes, question or comment. If whoever we elect, if you try to do the best job you can, for example, Debbie Clough, I don't want to swallow your head, but
I'm not elected.
she goes out, has raffles, I think some land was donated for the library, she makes things happen. I still have a sore shoulder when I went by her and she grabbed me and about $10, you know? What's the matter with you?
You're gonna get sued.
But we have a town lawyer for that. But anyway, she tries her best and has some results. And, you know, we're talking about putting the floor in the firehouse, and we're going in 7 different directions, which doesn't help the town at all. And this has to stop. We have to work together. I have one more question about the ambulances. Are we losing our ambulances or what?
Is this a question for me?
Yes.
Good question. Are we losing our ambulance? We've had a problem with our ambulance service, and that is, it's hard to get volunteers in our little town. And our service is strictly volunteers, and it takes a lot to become a member of the ambulance department and to actually go to where somebody needs help and be able to service that person. So what has happened with the ambulance department is the membership has dwindled a little bit, and so it dwindled to a point where we felt concerned that we might not be able to answer calls, because if we don't answer a call, then it gets toned to the next town over, which is Canaan. And we've now made an agreement with Canaan where they're going to cover us right away on the first call during daytime hours. And the ambulance department does have people in training right now that they expect to have, you know, ready to go in the foreseeable future. And when that happens, we'll be back up and running. So you know, it's a bumpy road. It's not easy. This building is a really nice building, and look at the equipment. I'm not even running for anything. Look at the equipment that we have. We're doing really well here, but we have to be able to manage, and that's easier to stand up here and say than it is to do. I'm only a selectman. I don't have to go to school. But the people who do this, they do. It's really critical. So it's hard to find those people to do that. And that's where we're at right now. And, you know, the people who are in the ambulance department, they're proud people. People who have served on the ambulance department in the past, they're also proud, and they should be, because they really did the town well by doing that. And we're just doing our best to maintain it as well as we can, and we do see light at the end of the tunnel. So hopefully that'll be a good thing.
And Nicholas is volunteering too.
We were thinking about trying to get him for the library.
Speaking of litigation, I know that the town of Alexandria voted in the right space ordinance, as did Grafton, and that they did end up going under litigation or being sued. There was a complaint, and cost the town of Alexandria some money. So I would like to ask candidate Merle whether he would be in favor of enforcing this unenforceable, legally unenforceable, rights-based ordinance, or whether you would be looking to enforce it, or whether you would be voting not to enforce it.
What is it again? I'm sorry.
It's something that was voted into the town of Grafton, I think it was in 2 years ago, rights-based ordinance.
2 years ago.
And it was an attempt to keep the wind farm out of Grafton, and it was voted in by the town of Alexandria. And when
Just to correct you, Deb, that lawsuit had nothing to do with the RVO.
when the
It was
rubber
about
met
that
the
tower.
road, what happened was
The
that
building permit.
the wind farm sued the town of Alexandria because the town of Alexandria didn't want to put up the MET tower. And so they had to back down, Alexandria did. And so, in this town, I'm really curious as to, what you would be wanting to do. I already know, Cindy, that's why I'm not asking you, I already know that it's important to you.
What you're
We don't
misstating,
enforce
the
it.
lawsuit had nothing to do with the RBO, it was about a building permit for a Met Tower. It was, the RBO had no part of it whatsoever.
Well, under the rights-based ordinance, though, was what,
Oh.
well, that's what the Valley News reported.
Oh, well, the Valley was never protected.
Welcome to the comics.
I think it's a
I have a question.
We should follow what the people of the town want. And it was voted, I think, fairly significant that they didn't want the
And when your council counsels that it's non-binding and unenforceable, would you still want to attempt to do that, knowing that the chances of litigation?
Probably not. If council advises us that it's not possible and it's illegal, I don't think that we should follow.
Okay, and what about,
I don't think a town can vote rights. Rights exist without government. Government stomps on rights, so I thought the wind tower thing that people voted in was a bunch of mumbo jumbo nonsense. So I would not vote to have a town lawyer defend it.
Cindy, you want to say
She said
anything?
she didn't want me to answer.
Well,
I wouldn't be a town lawyer if defended either, because I already paid Selma $1 to defend it. It's covered.
Okay, going to next question. Jeremy, you had a question?
I just wanted to hear Brian's answer, and he answered it.
Okay.
Yeah. So most of you know I'm relatively new in town, but I think those of you who've gotten to know me know I'm diligent about doing my homework, especially when it comes to town fairs. One thing has come up that I and some other folks have expressed a little curiosity about. I don't really, I don't want to get too personal here, but I do want to kind of direct a question over to Merle. From what I understand, by the way, everybody raves about the work that you did with the police, and I know we haven't been introduced, but I've heard nothing but good things. What's been brought to my attention was that you resigned from the police due to health concerns, was what I was told. I guess my question, and again, if it's too personal, I understand, but now that you're running for selectman, is that those concerns in the past, or is that, and if not, is that something that may play in within the next few years as far as you being a selectman and being able to carry out your duties? I just wanted to know that. And if I could also follow up with one minor thing. You had mentioned, I think that Bobby had come up with that straight truck idea for the dump. I was under the impression, maybe I heard wrong, that that was actually